Hello, St. Anne Parish, and welcome to this week's Quick Things. Lots of little things, but really big things as we approach this weekend and kind of move ahead. This weekend, we will accomplish what we were not able to accomplish as we gathered for the Easter Vigil so many months ago. Because of the restrictions on numbers of people and things, we couldn't celebrate what really is the highlight, the culmination of the entire church year, and that is the celebration of the initiation sacraments at the Easter Vigil. So Caroline and Violet, who have been waiting patiently for that, will join us at the 9:30 Mass this Sunday, and we will celebrate a little bit of Easter in August as we celebrate their baptism, welcome them in the sacrament of confirmation and Eucharist as well. Back in February, we accepted them as catechumens. They had been preparing with us and have continued to prepare with us prior to that acceptance into the order of catechumens. And then at the beginning of Lent, we sent them off to La Crosse for the rite of election, and Bishop Callahan elected them. He accepted their call and elected them for baptism. And then we all know what happened a couple weeks into Lent. And so we'll pick up from where we left off at the 9:30 Mass. That will be live streamed this week. So there will not be a Mass live streamed. There will be no email coming out on Saturday afternoon, early evening. That will happen on Sunday morning. The email will go out as soon as that 9:30 Mass is concluded on Sunday. So you can join us, watch it live at 9:30, although the email with the Mass link will follow at some point on Sunday as well. So that's why we're in the baptistry area here, kind of getting ready. We just had a rehearsal, getting ready, or not a rehearsal, a walkthrough. We don't rehearse sacraments. We kind of just talk through things a little bit. And so that's why we're here today, kind of anticipating that celebration of those initiation sacraments with Caroline and Violet on Sunday morning. We'll also continue to celebrate the sacraments, the initiation sacraments of confirmation and First Communion as we continue to go through the summer and into the fall. And that's been a great highlight, I think, as we've kind of reacquainted ourselves with our church and coming back to worship with one another, just to have these wonderful celebrations of these sacraments. It's been a privilege for me to celebrate with our kids receiving First Communion and our older teens who are celebrating confirmation, and to be able to share that sacrament with them. So we'll continue to do that as well, including at our 4 o'clock Mass on Saturday. Just a few announcements. Oh shoot, I was going to bring one here. We have these Fam Faith fun boxes just out here in the gathering space. There's one for every family in Newman Catholic Schools and Forming Young Disciples. So if you're at Mass, please be sure to take one or stop in if you're passing by or can make your way by here during business hours, including the weekend. Stop in and get your Fam Faith fun box. There's some things to, provide some, maybe enhance our faith in some ways, some things to have some fun with as a family. Those, again, are in our gathering space, so stop in and pick one up. Timothy Egan is the author of this book, A Pilgrimage to Eternity. It's I read it a couple months ago, kind of as a follow-up to my walking the Camino de Santiago. His pilgrimage in Europe was different. He went from Canterbury in England to Rome, so his was a much longer trek. But it's a very compelling story, and I'm offering this as a book club feature for parishioners, that we might read the book together and come together at 6:30 on Tuesdays on Zoom to talk about the book, anticipating Timothy Egan's presentation as part of the Central Wisconsin Book Festival. He'll be speaking on September 25th. Now, one of the things about COVID, as horrible as it is, and obviously it's a deadly, fatal thing, and it's inconvenienced people in so many bizarre ways, but Timothy Egan probably would not be coming to Wausau personally, but we can engage him on Zoom for this presentation on September 25th. But more imminently, if you're interested in being part of this book club, I'd encourage you, first of all, to find the book. They've had it at Yankee Bookstore downtown. Barnes & Noble might have it, or you can find it in the usual online sources for books. But boy, if you can buy it in Wausau, I'd encourage you to do that. One thing I would just say, so he does offer some political observations from time to time, but that is not the focal point of the book, and that will not be the point of our conversations at 6:30 on Tuesday. So if he says things that you agree with, okay, that's good. If he says things that rankle you, okay, we'll just let it go and move on to the more important parts of what he's observing, his spiritual quest, his journey from his spiritual pilgrimage to eternity. So again, we'll begin meeting in early September. Let me know if you want to be part of the book club. Send me an email, fathertom@stanswausau.org, and I'll keep you connected with our meetings as we get started in early September. And you can start reading the first few chapters of the book, A Pilgrimage to Eternity by Timothy Egan. With this email are a few videos. There's a feature in the Friday or Saturday New York Times. It's called How Much Watching Time Do You Have This Weekend? And they'll proceed to list various movies and TV shows and things that people might watch over the course of the weekend. So how much watching time do you have? Well, you don't have to watch it all now. I'm just offering you with this quick things email several videos that I just would encourage you, recommend to your attention. The first is the presentation by Bishop Mark Seitz at the convention I attended a few weeks ago, the virtual convention of the National Association of Pastoral Musicians. Bishop Seitz gave a wonderful keynote address in which he talked about the importance of music in times of strife. Since Old Testament times through the slave era and the era of the United States, and through our COVID era right now, the importance of music, especially in times of strife. But also, he relates that to our baptism, how we're struggling as a people with the coronavirus and racism and things like that. So it's just a really great presentation and a good way to get introduced to Bishop Seitz, the Bishop of El Paso, who I think is going to be one of the major figures in the Catholic Church over the next decade or so. Also with this email are the first two parts of an anti-racism retreat that's being presented online by the young Jesuits who run something called the Jesuit Post. It's a very creative group of guys, and they do some wonderful things, and this racism retreat is one of them. Now, I'll also say, though, that the first part is very challenging. It's not easy to listen to some of the observations that are shared. And my encouragement would be that we not be too quick to reject what they say. Well, that doesn't apply to me, or they're wrong, or that's one way of looking at it. Well, let's just listen to what they say and take that to prayer and see where that might take us. And maybe the first part is a bit too much. Well, let's give the second part or third part or fourth part, that the fact that it rankles us or is difficult maybe is why it's important. Somewhere recently, someone observed that we need to rest in our discomfort, and maybe this retreat gives us an opportunity to figure out what that means to rest in our discomfort. There's also a video from Father Casey Cole. So we'll hear from the Jesuits. Father Casey is a Franciscan, and it offers some good perspective, I think, as we continue to struggle with all the demands of this COVID time, of masks and distancing and staying home and not gathering in large groups, and all those challenges that we face, as well as unemployment and financial difficulties, and and for too many folks, illness and some enduring death. So he just kind of offers a perspective for us in the midst of all of that. And finally, but not last or least, is a video of our youth mission trip to West Virginia this summer, which occurred in Wausau. So you can see some highlights from that experience. So those are all part of this email. You don't have to watch them all today or this weekend, but hang on to them and I'd encourage you to give them some time and attention, okay? Finally, I'd like to conclude with our prayer being a proclamation of this Sunday's gospel. Now, if we were choosing a gospel to proclaim in connection with baptism and the sacraments of initiation, probably no one would ever choose this gospel, but it is the gospel that's given to us in our lectionary, that's established every 3 years. On the 19th Sunday of Ordinary Time, we hear this gospel. But actually, I think it's kind of appropriate for the sacrament of baptism. And I'd like you just, as I proclaim it, and as you think about it between now and Sunday, maybe be thinking about, what does this gospel have to do with baptism? What does this gospel mean? As we celebrate baptism, as we consider our own baptism, what might this gospel have to say to that? So this is our prayer as we go forth and anticipate the celebration of baptism this weekend. So from Matthew's Gospel, chapter 14, verses 22 to 33, if you want to look it up. After he had fed the people, Jesus made the disciples get into a boat and precede him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowd. After doing so, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. When it was evening, he was there alone. Meanwhile, the boat, already a few miles offshore, was being tossed about by the waves, for the wind was against it. During the 4th watch of the night, he came toward them walking on the sea. When the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified. "It is a ghost," they said, and they cried out in fear. At once, Jesus spoke to them. "Take courage. It is I. Do not be afraid." Peter said to him in reply, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." Jesus said, "Come." Peter got out of the boat and began to walk on the water toward Jesus. But when he saw how strong the wind was, he became frightened, and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately Jesus stretched out his hand and caught Peter and said to him, "O you of little faith, why did you doubt?" And they got into the boat, and the wind died down. Those who were in the boat did Jesus homage, saying, "Truly you are the Son of God." Amen.